What's going on, everybody? Just wanted to pop in here real quick, and I'm going to make this one as short as I can. Just wanted to address some things that I think every guy over 40 needs to know to get out of pain, nagging aches, chronic pain, recurring injuries that don't seem to get any better no matter what you try. Exercising, stretching, foam rolling, pain relievers, massage, chiropractic work, cortisone shots, things like that. So if that's you, if you're watching this, I think that there's something, this is kind of based on some questions that I get a lot of the times. It's like the same type of questions I get. So I thought this would be a great way to kind of answer that and give some information to anybody out there who is dealing with this kind of stuff. These are things that I dealt with for years. And, just at a point in my life where I thought that I was never going to get any better. And after I had a serious shoulder injury and couldn't lift my arm overhead for 3.5 months or so, and went to a physical therapy clinic and spent almost 3 hours there with the top two therapists who were looking at me and literally scratching their heads, looking at each other, and just could not figure out what I had done or, what I could do. And the only advice that I came away with was to try some rotator cuff exercises they had on the sheet of paper. They gave me a little bit of plastic tubing or rubber tubing, and said that, stop bench pressing, stop squatting, stop doing these things, that I like to do. And if that doesn't get any better, then maybe you get a surgery down the road. So, that was kind of the thing that scared me to death, because I didn't want to live my life on pain medications or in pain. And I certainly didn't want to go through a surgery that might or might not work. So anyway, I'll jump right into this. So 10 things that every guy over 40 needs to know if you are dealing with nagging aches, pain, shoulder, lower back, knees, foot, ankle, neck pain, whatever it might be, or maybe you have a combination of those things, because they do tend to go hand in hand, even though a lot of times they don't seem related. So number one, one of the questions I'm always getting asked is, what exercises do I need, or what exercise is the best for strengthening my shoulder or my knees or my back? And the one thing that I can honestly say with this thing is that there is no best exercise. And I know a lot of people, they want exercises, they want stretches. What do I need to do? And it's important to do them. Like, I'm not saying we don't need exercise. We absolutely do. But there is no single best exercise that will work for everyone. And the reason being is that, I could be talking to 10 people who all have low back pain, but not all 10 people have back pain for the same reason, meaning that it's not being caused by the same thing. Not all 10 people are going to respond in the same way to the same exercise. And everybody's a little bit different. We have different injury history. We have different heights and limb lengths. And we have different ways that we move, right? All these kinds of things. We can have all kinds of different joint restrictions, imbalances going on, and whatnot. So there really is no best exercise to do. There are like some staples. There are some staples that are in place, but not, there's no one size fits all that's going to work for everybody. So there is no single best exercise to do. I think one of the best questions to ask yourself if you're in pain is, what exercises and movements can I do that don't hurt me, they don't make my pain worse, or that help me feel better? And that's always a big clue. It's like that old saying, success leaves clues. Number two, and I wrote these down here so I don't want to forget anything. So if I'm looking off, I'm just making sure that I cover everything that I wanted to cover here. So number two is, the exercises that you do, or the exercise that you do, is nowhere near as important as how it's done. And that's the big thing. A lot of people are out there dealing with pain and everything and thinking that, well, I can't bend down anymore. I can't do squats anymore. I can't do push-ups. I can't do these movements or these exercises because they're bad for me. Or they go the other way and they think that the power to get out of pain is about exercise in general. A lot of times they're being told, hey, you need to lose weight and go get some exercise. And it's kind of the same thing. It's not just the exercise. If I told 10 people to do squats, not all 10 people are going to do them in the same way. Some might feel really good when they do them, and some might get knee pain, back problems, and things like that. And it's not because of the exercise, it's because of how it's being done. I have worked with so many people over the years. It's been over 22 years, going on 23, and I've worked with them all. I've worked with, knee replacements, hip replacements, ACL surgeries, MCLs, arthroscopics, you name it, injured athletes and runners and all kinds of people. And the one thing I've always said I've never seen happen is that somebody can't, do like a regular squat, like you're sitting down and standing up. It's something we have to do in everyday life. Nobody could not do it that I've seen as long as they did it correctly, as long as things were being done the right way. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of different things and get hurt or their pain gets worse, mostly just because of the way that it's being done. So it's not about the exercise. The exercises we do are nowhere near as important as how we do them. So if we do them right, it really is a communication link to the rest of the body that we don't need pain because we're safe to move as long as we move safely. Number 3, so this is another one that I hear all the time, especially from men over 40. This is not to just, to cast out guys over 40 or to make blanket statements, but I've really heard this a lot. And it's that, when they're dealing with pain, they're often saying, well, I need to get in shape. Like I need to get in better shape, or maybe they were in good shape, back in college or high school, they were athletes and things like that. Or at one point they were in really, fit condition. And then, pain and injuries take over, life takes over, work takes over. You have family commitments and you got to make money and all this stuff happens. And over time, maybe we put on some weight. We don't move as well. We're stiff and we're sore all the time. We're stressed out, burned out, and exhausted from working 10, 12, 15-hour days at the office, sitting through business meetings, commuting long distances to work. And travel and all of that, and it takes a toll on us. But it's not getting in shape that's not the thing that gets us out of pain. It's the other way around. If you think about it, if you're in pain, it's even harder to get in shape because there's so many things that you can't really do, or you can't do them as well. It's hard to do a bunch of exercises when you hurt all the time. So it's really the other way around, that once we start to get out of pain, then it makes it a lot easier to get in shape. A lot of the guys that I've worked with over the years, almost every single time, initially came to me because of pain. That was the primary concern. Once we got them out of pain, then the other things started coming in. Oh, I want to lose weight and get lean, or I want to build muscle, I want to get stronger, or I want to start running. I want to start running marathons again. Those are the things that happen after we got them out of pain. So, getting in shape's not the answer in and of itself. It's the other way around. Got to get out of pain, and it makes it so much easier to get in shape. So next one is that the better that you move, and this piggybacks on what I was just talking about, but the better that you move, the less pain you're going to have. And it goes that way. It's that when we have pain, it shuts down movement. It decreases strength, right? There's all these negative kind of things that happen because pain is it's a signal that's being sent to the body from the brain that's saying, hey, stop doing what you're doing because it hurts. It doesn't feel good. And so, our brain is naturally trying to protect us, to keep us from doing more damage. So when we start to learn how to move better, we can, unblock joint restrictions or, muscles that are tight and stiff and things like that. We start to free those things up. We start to move better. When we start to move better, the brain no longer has the reason to send pain to the body because now it's feeling safe to move. So it's always that way that pain tends to decrease as movement improves, or quality of movement, I should say. And I think one of the mistakes in thinking, or the mistakes in how we can think about that sometimes, is that we can assume that just because we can sit down and stand up, or we can walk up and down stairs, that means that we have good mobility. but it's not always the case. You know, I was working a couple years back before the whole COVID thing hit. I was working with a 51-year-old gentleman who was an avid surfer and biker and had such bad knee pain. And, you know, he was having trouble getting up on a surfboard. He couldn't bike. And the doctors were telling him he was going to need a knee replacement. And so when I was assessing him, what I noticed was there was a huge difference in how his injured knee moved compared to his non-injured knee. It was a huge, I want to say it was like 30 plus degrees less range of motion on the injured side. So when his knee wasn't able to bend really well, and there was that big of a difference, imagine trying to get on a surfboard when you can't fully squat down and bend your knee, or you're pedaling on a bike and you can't bend your knee, and he's forcing it to happen. And that was the biggest thing that was going on. So I worked with him on just getting his movement better. And it was amazing because, and I'm not joking when I say within 2 months, he was virtually pain-free within 2 months just from freeing up the movement. And that led to everything else happening after that. All right, so the next thing, and this is such an important one to remember, and I never hear it being talked about, because we are taught that pain is an issue with muscles and joints for the most part. So we have to have better posture, or we have to have better joint alignment, or we have to stretch tight muscles and strengthen weak ones. But what we're not being told is that, you know, the body heals, but the brain remembers. And the thing is that pain is felt in the body, but it is held within the brain. And that is the biggest thing. And why that's important is because, you know, we can have injuries, or we can have areas in the body that hurt, that are in pain, but when they heal, when things get better, if you've ever like been working out or running or whatever you're doing and you couldn't get rid of pain, and then maybe you go to see the doctor and he tells you to rest, right? Don't do this anymore, take time off. You back off, you rest, and you start to feel better. Then you go back in and you start running again, or you start, you know, doing whatever you're doing again. And it's not very long before you get that little twinge again. And then before you know it, the pain's back, right? And it's this constant cycle. And that's what happens because the body has healed, but the brain always remembers. And so when we go to do the things, the same thing. So for example, if you were running and that beat up your knees, when you go back to running, this guy remembers that, when I go running, my knees hurt. And so it sends, the brain again will send signals to the body to change the way that we move. It will limit movement, or it will decrease strength, or it will change the way that we move. It'll get us to change the way that we move. So when we change movement patterns, and these are things that actually make pain worse over time. So it's always important to remember that, you know, the brain remembers. So this is why, you know, if you watch my videos and posts, I talk a lot about incorporating work for the brain and the nervous system with the body. It's not just exercises and stretches that we need to do, but we really need to basically find the areas of the brain that are sending the pain signal and get those areas to kind of calm down so that we don't get that pain signal sent when we don't need it. All right, next one. There are no movements or exercises or activities that are bad for you. There aren't. There really aren't. And I hear it a lot. A lot of guys talking about, you know, I can't run anymore, or I can't play golf anymore because it's bad for my shoulders, or running's bad for my knees. Squats are bad for my knees or my back. Bench presses are bad for my shoulders. You know, and it's like I was saying earlier before, you know, there really are no bad exercises or movements. It's how they're performed. That's the thing that is the big killer for the body. You know, when we do things correctly, when we do things safely, when we've got a body that can move well and that is balanced well, and we've got good communication from the brain and nervous system, things tend to work well. And those pain symptoms that we have start to resolve themselves. We've just got to tackle the root cause and get into, you know, doing these things better, more safely, better ranges of motion, right? Better quality movements, things like that. So the next one, and this is another big one, that we tend to believe that, you know, pain is something that just happens as we get older, and we have to learn to live with it. There's not a whole lot that we can do with it or about it. And I'll say this: pain is not. It doesn't happen just because we're over 40. There's never like the clouds in the sky are not going to part ways, and then you hear this voice from above telling you, hey, now that you're over 40, you can no longer run, you can no longer lift, you can't push yourself, you can't train hard, right? You can't move in certain ways anymore. But it's not to make light of pain either. Pain's there for a reason. It's there to alert us, to get our attention that something in the body somewhere is wrong, something's off, and it needs to be fixed. But in most cases that I've seen, it can be fixed. But it's not based on age. What happens is that as we get older, look at what happens. We also get a lot busier. We have more obligations. We have more commitments. We have, long days that we spend sitting maybe at a desk or in business meetings or behind the steering wheel of a car, at a computer. And what starts to happen is that we don't move in the same way. We assume these postures that throw our bodies out of balance, and then we try and move like we did back in the day when we were in good shape and we were fit, or we were athletes, and we kind of lose it because we don't do it as much anymore. Muscles get deconditioned, right? We start to lose awareness of where our alignment's supposed to be. Our bodies get stuck. And so that's what starts to happen. This deconditioning process takes place. And that's the reason why we tend to get a lot of these aches and pains as we get older. But it's not just because we get older. And on the flip side of that is that there's always something that we can do to make it better. Like chronic pain and nagging aches and pains and injuries, like these do not have to be a life sentence. There is always something that we can do to get ourselves better. And that doesn't mean we have to take medications or drugs or get surgery or things like that. And we don't have to give up, in most cases, doing the things that we love to do. All right, next one, and I'm almost done here. So this is a big one, that the area of the body that's in pain is rarely the cause of the pain. So if your shoulder hurts, or if your knee hurts, or if your low back hurts, those usually are not the reasons why we have pain, which is why if we do strengthening exercises for these areas, the results tend to be maybe not very good in most cases. You might feel a little bit better, but the pain never really goes away. It keeps coming back. It's always kind of there, and that's the reason why. There's something else going on in the body, and it's like these are the common areas that take on most of the stress whenever we move or we do certain activities or play sports or whatever it is. So, the area that's in pain, though, is not necessarily the cause. And in most cases, especially in chronic, recurring, nagging aches and pains, it's not. So we've got to do a better job at finding where the root cause is, because once we eliminate the cause, the symptoms that we feel in the body tend to disappear on their own. All right, and then finally, strengthening. One of the biggest questions I get, and I think I mentioned this earlier, what is the best exercise to strengthen my shoulder? Because I have shoulder pain. What's the best exercise to strengthen my back? Because I have back pain. And here's the thing with strengthening is super important, is that strengthening should not be the first thing that we do. And it's actually, for me, it's the third step. When I work with somebody, it is not the first thing we do. And here's the reason why, and this is one of the biggest things that's not talked about. You don't hear about this in rehab and, YouTube and all this stuff where we find all these strengthening exercises. But if we just jump into strengthening exercises, then what we tend to do is we strengthen the imbalances in the body that already exist that are triggering pain. So we make those imbalances stronger and harder to get rid of them. And so then we wonder why the pain never goes away, or over time, why it gets worse, and this is why. So what we need to do is there's two steps that I look at before strengthening happens. One of them is that we've got to remove any weak links in the body, weak links in movement patterns, weak links in stabilization, right? Because if those weak links are there, then the chain that is the body, it's only a matter of time before it's going to break. The weak link is the thing that's going to be the cause of pain in the body. So we've got to get rid of the weak links. And then secondly, once we do that, then we start to gain access to more movement that we've lost because we've been in pain. When you're in pain, you don't move as well. And so, we tend to be very limited in how we move or the movements we can do. So once we start tapping into these movement patterns and gaining access to them, then we can start strengthening. And that's where I look at it all the time. Like, strengthening should not be the first thing that we do. Make sure that you've addressed any of the red flags and weak links in the body. Do your best to correct those first. And then after those, recondition the body. Start moving the body through these new ranges of motion or movements that you haven't done since you've hurt. And then start to build strength on top of that, all right? So, avoiding movements and things like that, those are not things that are going to protect us in the long run, especially movements that we have to do every day. You have to do certain things, every day. And if you try and avoid them, you can avoid them maybe in the gym or things like that, but you can't avoid when you have to do them every day. And so if we're not preparing our bodies to be able to do these movements, it's kind of a recipe for the self-reinforcing cycle of pain. All right, so that's going to be enough for now. I think I've shared quite a lot on this. Look, if you're wanting some more information with this, if you're looking to get a little bit more in detail on this, you want to know more, I just put up a post yesterday. I'm giving away my step-by-step method that I use, and I just talked about some of it already. If you're interested, I'm giving it away for free. No strings attached, none of that stuff. It's not a sales pitch or anything like that. I'm just legitimately here to help anybody who is over 40 and struggling with pains and injuries that they can't get rid of, and they've tried everything, and everything's failed. So it's 4 basic steps that I go through to make that happen. I've done it with myself. I do it with clients. If you're interested, private message me and let me know, or just comment on this video and just comment like pain-free or yes, I'm interested, whatever it is. Secondly, if you want even more, then I invite you to private message me with free group. So I have a free online community here on Facebook that helps men over 40 get out of pain, get back in shape, and get back to doing the things that they love to do. All right, so if you're interested in either of those, private message me or comment on the video and let me know, and I will get access, give you access to those things. All right, in the meantime, you guys, I hope you have an awesome day. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.